Have you ever walked into a room and noticed cobwebs in the corner, silent, stubborn, and often overlooked? Our minds can be just like that room. Over time, outdated beliefs, limiting thoughts, and mental clutter quietly build up. They cloud our judgment, limit our creativity, and keep us from seeing possibilities clearly. Today, I invite you to clear the cobwebs from your thinking. It's time to challenge automatic assumptions. It's time to let go of what no longer serves us. When we remove mental clutter, we free up space for clarity, innovation, and growth. Just like cleaning a room gives it new life, clearing your mind opens the door to new potential. We all build assumptions, mental shortcuts formed from our past experiences, education, culture, and upbringing. They help us navigate the world efficiently, but they can also act as invisible walls that confine our thinking. These assumptions often become so deeply ingrained that we mistake them for facts. Without realizing it, we begin to view the world through a filter that limits perspective, choice, and possibility. The danger lies in not the existence of assumptions, but in our failure to recognize and reevaluate them. Assumptions can be as simple as believing I'm not good at math, or as complex as success only comes to people with connections. These ideas may not have been tested or challenged in years, if ever. We repeat them mentally so often that they form part of our identity. Once accepted, they influence our decisions, shape our self-worth, and create self-imposed limitations. The irony is that what we assume to be true can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because it's accurate, but because we act in alignment with it. To question assumptions is to shine a light into the mental corners we usually ignore. It is to ask ourselves, where did this belief come from? Who told me this was true? What evidence do I actually have? This level of self-inquiry takes courage. It requires a willingness to be wrong, to admit that maybe the map we've been using is outdated or incomplete. But this is not a weakness. It's the first step toward true intellectual freedom. Let's take an example. Many people assume that failure is bad. It's something to avoid at all costs. But what if we flipped that assumption? What if failure was seen as a natural and necessary part of learning? Innovators, entrepreneurs, and creatives often embrace failure as feedback, not defeat. By questioning the assumption that failure is negative, we open ourselves up to experimentation, resilience, and growth. The world doesn't change when we avoid mistakes, it changes when we learn from them. Another powerful area to examine is the assumptions we make about others. We often judge people based on appearances, accents, job titles, or even social media presence. These snap judgments are based on mental patterns we've picked up over time. They can lead to bias, misunderstanding, and missed opportunities for connection. By consciously suspending judgment and engaging with curiosity instead, we replace assumption with empathy and openness. Questioning assumptions also applies to how we define success, happiness, and fulfillment. Are we chasing goals that we truly value, or are we following someone else's script? The assumption that there's a right way to live or a universal timeline for success can be toxic. By confronting these societal norms and asking, is this what I want? We reclaim our autonomy and redefine what achievement looks like on our terms. Importantly, this practice is not a one-time exercise. Questioning assumptions is an ongoing habit of mind. It requires vigilance and humility. It also requires the discipline to seek out diverse perspectives and the patience to sit with discomfort. As we grow and evolve, so too should the beliefs that guide us. What served us 5 years ago might be limiting us today. Periodic reevaluation is not optional, it's essential. In some, assumptions are like mental cobwebs, light, almost invisible, but capable of accumulating over time until they block our view entirely. To clear them out, we must commit to questioning what we think we know. This process won't always be easy, but it is one of the most liberating and empowering forms of mental clarity we can pursue. In a world that constantly demands our attention, mindfulness has become more than just a wellness trend. It's a necessity for mental clarity. At its core, mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, aware of where we are and what we're doing, without judgment or distraction. It is the opposite of autopilot living, where we go through the motions of life without truly experiencing it. When we neglect the present, our minds either ruminate on the past or anticipate the future, both of which generate unnecessary mental clutter. Most of us don't realize how much energy we waste on thoughts that are not rooted in the present. We replay conversations, regret decisions, or fear outcomes that haven't happened yet. These thought patterns, though common, are mentally exhausting and often counterproductive. Mindfulness helps us interrupt that cycle. It gently guides us back to the now, reminding us that the only moment we can truly influence is the one we are currently in. This doesn't mean ignoring the past or future, but it means we stop living in them. Mindfulness begins with awareness. It's not about achieving a blank mind or eliminating thoughts, but rather observing them without becoming entangled in them. For instance, when we're anxious, mindfulness allows us to notice the emotion, name it, and explore where it's coming from without letting it spiral. This simple act of awareness can significantly reduce the emotional intensity we experience and help us make more conscious choices rather than reactive ones. One powerful way to practice mindfulness is through breath. The breath is always in the present. It cannot be in the past or future. When we anchor our attention to the rhythm of our inhale and exhale, we create space between stimulus and response. That space is where awareness lives. Even a few minutes of deep, conscious breathing can clear away mental fog and restore a sense of balance and control, especially during stressful or overwhelming moments. Daily routines also offer rich opportunities for mindfulness. Something as ordinary as drinking tea, walking, or washing dishes can become a mindful experience if we bring our full attention to it. We begin to notice the texture, smell, sound, and sensation involved in even the simplest tasks. Over time, this presence sharpens our perception and enriches our experience of life. Instead of rushing through our days, we start to live them, moment by moment. The scientific benefits of mindfulness are also well documented. Regular mindfulness practice has been shown to reduce anxiety, improve focus, lower blood pressure, and even reshape the brain in areas associated with learning, memory, and emotional regulation. These aren't just abstract gains. They directly impact our ability to think clearly, make sound decisions, and respond calmly in challenging situations. In short, mindfulness doesn't just declutter the mind, it strengthens it. Mindfulness also enhances our relationships. When we are fully present with others, we listen more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and connect more authentically. We are less likely to project assumptions or react defensively because we are attuned to the moment instead of being lost in our own mental narrative. In this way, mindfulness not only clears the cobwebs from our thinking, but fosters clarity and respect in our interactions with others. Ultimately, practicing mindfulness is about cultivating a kind of inner stillness amid external chaos. It is a discipline of returning, again and again, to presence, not perfectly, not permanently, but consistently. Each time we return to the present moment, we take a small step toward clarity. We begin to see things as they are, not as we fear or assume them to be. This clear seeing becomes the foundation for thoughtful action, deeper insight, and a more grounded way of living. Negative self-talk is one of the most pervasive forms of mental clutter. It's the quiet, persistent voice inside our heads that tells us we're not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. Often we don't even notice it. It becomes background noise woven into the fabric of our thoughts. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's harmless. Over time, this internal dialogue shapes how we see ourselves and how we respond to challenges. It narrows our possibilities, distorts our self-image, and undermines our confidence. This kind of self-talk often begins early in life. It may stem from critical authority figures, cultural expectations, or early failures that were never reframed. Phrases like "I always mess things up," "I'll never be successful," or "I'm just not that type of person," are not facts. They are beliefs we've absorbed or repeated until they feel true. But these beliefs act like mental cobwebs. They don't protect us. They trap us. They cloud our thinking and prevent us from seeing our potential clearly. The first step to decluttering negative self-talk is to become aware of it. Often, we speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to another person. If a friend made a mistake, we'd offer encouragement or perspective. But when we make the same mistake, we might criticize ourselves harshly or catastrophize the situation. That double standard can be damaging. By tuning into our inner dialogue, we begin to recognize patterns of negativity that need to be challenged. Once we become aware of our self-talk, we can start questioning its accuracy. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Would I say this to someone I care about? Often, the answers reveal that our self-talk is exaggerated, distorted, or simply wrong. Reframing these thoughts isn't about being blindly positive. It's about being realistic and compassionate. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," try saying, "That didn't go well, but I can learn from it." This shift may seem small, but over time, it changes how we process setbacks. Another powerful strategy is to replace judgment with curiosity. Instead of berating yourself with "Why did I do that?" in a tone of blame, try asking, "What led me to that choice?" with a tone of inquiry. This opens up space for growth instead of guilt. It moves the focus from shame to understanding and from punishment to progress. The more curious and compassionate we become toward ourselves, the more resilient we grow, mentally and emotionally. Affirmations and positive language also play a role, but they must be rooted in truth. Empty phrases won't help if they feel dishonest. Instead, focus on affirmations that reinforce effort, intention, and growth. Say things like, "I'm learning to handle this better each time," or "I have faced hard things before and I can do it again." These statements affirm your capacity to grow, rather than pretending everything is perfect. They serve as a counterbalance to the automatic negativity many of us carry unconsciously. In many cases, negative self-talk thrives in isolation. When we don't share our thoughts or feelings with others, they grow unchecked. Speaking to a trusted friend, mentor, or therapist can help bring perspective to inner narratives that feel overwhelming. Others can often see strengths and patterns we've overlooked. They can remind us of our resilience and redirect us when we fall into mental traps. External support doesn't erase negative self-talk, but it can help us reframe and reduce its power. Decluttering negative self-talk is not about silencing every doubt forever. It's about creating a healthier internal environment. One where challenge and self-discipline coexist with encouragement and understanding. A mind filled with toxic self-criticism is like a room filled with smoke, hard to breathe in, hard to see clearly. But when we clear out that smoke, When we consciously replace destructive thoughts with honest, constructive ones, we reclaim the clarity and confidence to move forward with purpose. In today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, mental overload has become a silent epidemic. We are bombarded with notifications, emails, headlines, advertisements, and opinions every waking moment. This constant flood of information clutters our thinking, overwhelms our attention span, and leaves us feeling mentally exhausted. It's not just the volume of information that overwhelms us, it's the speed at which we are expected to process it. The result, a brain that's perpetually busy but rarely focused. Mental overload reduces our cognitive efficiency. When we try to absorb too much at once, our brain can't process or prioritize effectively. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. We end up soaked but thirsty. We skim, scroll, and multitask without really engaging deeply with anything. In this state, clarity becomes elusive. Decision-making slows down, creativity suffers, and even simple tasks begin to feel disproportionately difficult. What we often call burnout is, at its core, an overloaded mind begging for space. One of the most practical steps toward mental clarity is learning to filter input. Not every article, video, message, or request deserves your immediate attention, or any attention at all. Begin by setting clear boundaries around your time and energy. Choose specific times for checking email or social media instead of reacting to every ping in real time. This may sound simple, but the discipline to disconnect, even temporarily, can significantly lighten the mental load. Another powerful tactic is to embrace single tasking. Multitasking is often praised as a skill, but in reality, it divides attention and reduces performance. Our brains are not designed to do multiple complex tasks simultaneously. Instead, we switch rapidly between tasks, exhausting our mental resources without realizing it. By focusing on one thing at a time, we increase our depth of thought, reduce errors, and complete tasks more efficiently. The clarity that comes from single tasking is subtle but profound. To limit overload, it's also crucial to protect your mental environment. Surround yourself with calm, organized spaces whenever possible. Physical clutter often mirrors mental clutter. A noisy, disorganized environment feeds distraction, while a clean, quiet one supports concentration. This principle applies to people as well. Spend time with those who energize rather than drain you. Conversations that are meaningful and nourishing do not contribute to overload. They help relieve it. Managing input also means being selective about what you allow into your mental space. Are the books you read, the shows you watch, and the content you consume contributing to your well-being or creating more noise? Just as we are mindful of what we eat, we must become mindful of what we mentally consume. Not all information is valuable, and not all stimulation is healthy. Learn to recognize when your brain feels full and honor that limit by stepping back. Journaling or brain dumping is another powerful way to clear mental clutter. By writing down your thoughts, tasks, worries, or ideas, you offload them from your mind and give them structure. This simple practice turns chaos into order. It reduces anxiety, provides perspective, and frees up mental space for more important, creative, or reflective thinking. Sometimes we're not overwhelmed by life itself, but by the fact that we haven't taken time to organize our minds. Ultimately, limiting mental overload is an act of self-respect. It's acknowledging that your attention is valuable and your brain has limits. It's about choosing quality over quantity, fewer tabs open, fewer demands on your time, fewer distractions clamoring for your attention. When you begin to filter, simplify, and focus, you make room for clarity to emerge. You stop reacting to everything and start responding to what actually matters. Curiosity is the antidote to mental stagnation. It is a quiet but powerful force that keeps the mind alive, open, and engaged with the world. When we stop asking questions, stop seeking new ideas, or stop challenging what we think we know, our thinking begins to calcify. The mental cobwebs start forming when we assume we've already figured things out. But a curious mind, much like a clean window, lets in the light of new understanding. It constantly brushes away outdated beliefs to make space for growth. Staying curious doesn't mean we have to pursue formal education or master complex subjects. It means we maintain an active interest in discovering. It could be as simple as reading a new genre of books, listening to a podcast outside your usual interests, or striking up conversations with people from different walks of life. Every time we seek to learn something new, we are challenging our assumptions, expanding our mental map, and inviting fresh air into our thinking. Curiosity pushes us beyond comfort zones. Learning something new often means admitting what we don't know, a vulnerable but essential step. When we embrace the discomfort of not knowing, we also open ourselves up to discovery. This mindset fosters humility, which is crucial for mental clarity. We become less attached to being right and more invested in understanding deeply. That shift not only improves how we think, but also how we relate to others and to ourselves. In the digital age, where information is abundant but depth is rare, genuine learning requires intentionality. Scrolling through trivia on social media is not the same as deep, focused learning. True curiosity involves slowing down to absorb, reflect, and apply what we take in. It's not about collecting facts, it's about forming new insights. When we approach life with a learner's mindset, even routine experiences can reveal unexpected lessons. Lifelong learning also helps us adapt to change. The world is evolving rapidly, industries shift, technologies emerge, social norms evolve. A curious, learning-oriented mindset equips us to navigate uncertainty with resilience. Instead of fearing change, we begin to see it as an opportunity to grow. We become flexible thinkers, able to update our beliefs, learn new skills, and remain mentally agile in the face of disruption. Moreover, curiosity nurtures creativity. Many breakthroughs, whether in science, business, art, or personal growth, begin with a question: what if, why not, how could this be different? When we explore ideas playfully and without immediate judgment, we make room for innovation. We stop relying on what's already been done and start imagining what's possible. Creativity is not just for artists. It's for anyone who wants to think more clearly, solve problems more effectively, and live more fully. Importantly, curiosity can also reconnect us with joy. When we were children, everything was fascinating. We asked endless questions, explored fearlessly, and learned through wonder. Somewhere along the way, many of us lose that spark, not because curiosity leaves us, but because we stop giving it space. Reigniting that curiosity can bring new energy into our lives. It makes the world feel bigger, richer, and more full of potential. To stay curious and keep learning is to commit to a lifetime of mental renewal. It is a decision to never grow too certain, too rigid, or too closed off. A curious mind is never finished. It's always evolving, refining, and growing sharper. It seeks clarity not as a final destination, but as an ongoing journey of discovery. By staying curious, we continually clear the cobwebs from our thinking, leaving space for insight, inspiration, and transformation. In an age of complexity, simplicity is a radical act. Our minds are constantly flooded with thought. Some useful, many not. We think about to-do lists, unfinished conversations, what others might think, things we regret, and possibilities we fear. This mental clutter accumulates quietly. gradually filling every corner of our inner space until there's little room left for clarity, calm, or creativity. Simplifying your mental space doesn't mean silencing your thoughts altogether. It means becoming selective and intentional about which thoughts deserve your attention. Just as physical clutter can overwhelm a room, mental clutter overwhelms your inner world. The two are often linked. A disorganized environment tends to breed a disorganized mind. When everything around you demands attention, from cluttered desks to overflowing inboxes, it becomes harder to think clearly. The first step in simplifying your mental space often begins externally, by tidying, organizing, and creating a physical space that reflects calm and clarity. A clean room may not solve every problem, but it sets the tone for more intentional thinking. But simplifying internally is just as important. One practical way to do this is through prioritization. Many of us try to carry everything at once, every task, every responsibility, every emotional weight. Our minds become like overcrowded filing cabinets with papers stuffed in every drawer. By learning to identify what actually matters, what's urgent, what's important, and what's just noise, we can begin to free up mental bandwidth. Saying no more often, postponing what can wait, or delegating where possible are all acts of mental simplification. Another way to simplify your mental space is to create routines. Routines reduce decision fatigue by removing unnecessary mental effort from repeated tasks. From what you eat for breakfast to when you check email, having reliable patterns gives your brain more space to focus on what really matters. Contrary to the belief that routines are boring or limiting, they are actually liberating. They reduce friction and uncertainty, giving structure to your day and stability to your thoughts. Mindfulness practices such as meditation or even a few minutes of stillness each day also serve to declutter the mind. In those quiet moments, you're not solving problems or making decisions. You're simply observing your thoughts. Like watching leaves float down a river, you begin to see that not every thought needs to be chased. Some can pass by without reaction. This practice trains your mind to let go of what's unnecessary and to return to a centered state more easily throughout the day. Another effective technique is the practice of brain dumping or thought journaling. When thoughts feel overwhelming, writing them down creates distance and structure. The simple act of transferring your inner chatter to paper can bring surprising relief. It allows you to examine your thoughts objectively, categorize them, and decide what's actionable versus what's just noise. In this way, you don't carry everything in your head. You offload it into a system that helps you process more clearly. Emotional simplicity is also part of mental simplicity. Many of us hold on to unresolved feelings, resentments, regrets, old arguments, self-judgments. These emotional weights may not surface every day, but they take up space in the background. Learning to process, release, and forgive yourself and others is a profound form of simplification. It creates space for more peace, emotional balance, and thoughtful response rather than unconscious reaction. Ultimately, simplifying your mental space is not about doing less, it's about doing what matters most with greater clarity and focus. It's about being intentional with your thoughts, your time, and your energy. When you remove the excess, you can finally see what's essential. You regain your ability to think clearly, to act decisively, and to live with greater ease. A simplified mind doesn't mean an empty mind. It means a spacious one, where the most important thoughts are no longer buried under noise. The people we spend time with shape our mental landscape more than we often realize. Just as physical environments influence how we feel and think, so do social environments. When we surround ourselves with people who are grounded, thoughtful, and intentional in their thinking, it influences us to be more mindful and clear-headed ourselves. On the other hand, spending time with those who are constantly negative, chaotic, or reactive can leave us mentally drained and emotionally unsettled. Choosing who we allow into our mental space is one of the most important and overlooked tasks of self-care. Clarity-driven people don't have perfect lives or unshakable optimism. Instead, they are people who strive for insight, practice emotional maturity, and value depth over drama. They are the ones who can sit in silence without needing to fill it, who listen with intention, and who reflect before they respond. These people help declutter your thoughts not by offering all the answers, but by encouraging better questions. Their presence itself becomes a kind of mirror, calm, reflective, and clarifying. Engaging in conversations with such people can feel like a breath of fresh air. Rather than draining your energy with gossip, complaints, or superficial distractions, they leave you feeling more focused, more thoughtful, and sometimes even inspired. They challenge you not aggressively, but constructively. They ask why you believe what you do, or gently push you to think deeper. In a world full of noise, their clarity helps cut through the mental static, and in turn sharpens your own thinking. This doesn't mean cutting everyone out of your life who isn't perfectly clear or self-aware. We all have friends and loved ones who are on different journeys, and perfection should never be the standard, but it does mean being intentional about balance. If the majority of your interactions are with people who constantly amplify confusion, fear, or distraction, it will inevitably affect your mental clarity. You can still love people from a distance, protect your boundaries, and seek out others who nourish your mental space. Mentors, thoughtful peers, or even wise authors can serve as clarity-driven influences in your life. Sometimes we don't have access to such people nearby, but we can still learn from those who model clarity in their writing, speech, or teaching. Podcasts, books, lectures, and online communities can be sources of clear thinking and purposeful living. The key is to actively seek out those who elevate your perspective, not those who anchor you in confusion. Importantly, surrounding yourself with clarity-driven people helps reinforce your own standards for communication and decision-making. You learn to pause before reacting, to choose your words more carefully, to be more intentional in your interactions. This creates a positive feedback loop. Your clarity influences others, and their clarity reinforces your growth. Over time, this builds a network of trust, mutual respect, and thoughtful exchange. You become not just someone who benefits from clarity, but someone who cultivates it for others. Clarity-driven relationships are also essential in times of uncertainty. When life becomes confusing or overwhelming, these are the people who help you find your center again. They listen without judgment, offer honest but kind feedback, and remind you of your values when you start to drift. They don't offer quick fixes or toxic positivity. They offer presence, perspective, and patience. In their company, you are reminded that clarity is not something you chase alone. It's something that is nurtured through meaningful connection. Ultimately, the company you keep becomes the background music of your inner life. If that music is chaotic, dissonant, or full of static, it becomes harder to think clearly. But when the people around you are tuned into clarity, purpose, and understanding, your own thinking becomes more focused, your emotions more balanced, and your direction more certain. Choosing clarity-driven people is not just a social decision. It's a mental and emotional investment in your long-term well-being. Clearing the cobwebs from your thinking is not a one-time act. It's a continual, conscious commitment to mental clarity, emotional balance, and purposeful living. Each of the principles we've explored, cultivating self-awareness, questioning automatic thoughts, limiting mental overload, embracing curiosity, simplifying your inner world, and surrounding yourself with clarity. Driven people are not just tips. They are practices. Lived daily, they slowly sweep away the mental debris that fogs your focus, dims your creativity, and stifles your peace. In a world that often glorifies busyness, distraction, and noise, choosing clarity is a bold and rare decision. But it is in that choice that you reclaim your ability to think freely, act decisively, and feel deeply. You begin to navigate life not on autopilot, but with intention and grace. You stop reacting to every disruption and start responding to what truly matters. You find your way not by knowing all the answers, but by learning to ask better questions and listening to the quiet truths that rise when the mind is still. So take a deep breath, step back, unclutter your thoughts, clear the cobwebs, because beneath the mental noise and dust your clearest self is waiting, not to be discovered, but to be uncovered.